Bruins Beat is brought to you by Prize Picks and the Game Time app.
And welcome into the Bruins Beat, presented by Prize Picks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 back when you play just $5. And we are presented by Game Time. Go use the promo code CLNS to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. I am Evan Marinofsky. That is Conor Ryan. Connor, what is up?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. We're recording this on a Sunday afternoon. I kind of like Sunday night, early Sunday night. No Patriots today, no Bruins. There was some Bruins news we'll get to in a second. We'll start with Bruins get a 4-0 win over Columbus after horrible game on Friday. Both teams lay an egg in the other team's barn. Feels like that's the only way the Bruins play the Blue Jackets this year. They either get crushed or they crush them. Good start. Good physicality. Good win. I still go back to this, Connor. Yeah.
No, I agree. Same boat as you. I mean, it'd be one thing if they just took care of business. That's why it's so frustrating about this team in terms of, chatting out or making any sweeping conclusion as to what this team is, right? Because, how much better do you feel about this team, especially after that really dominant win against the Capitals? You have that win, you hold them to 11 shots on goal, and then, let's push ahead a little bit and not focus on them getting their doors blown off on Friday. But let's say, they just take care of business. Doesn't mean they don't have to dominate the Blue Jackets, but say they win 3-2. Professional win. Hell, they win in overtime. Who cares? They win. And then you have a game like Saturday where, again, a nice professional performance where take care of business, win 4-0, hold Columbus to 18 shots on goal. You have guys contribute up and down the lineup. You have Lysell, gives a little bit of energy there, and we'll talk quite a bit about him moving forward.
Oh boy, will we.
Yes. But, you got, Swayman, not overly taxed, but made necessary saves, get the shutout. Pasternak with a goal. I think Laura had a good bounce-back game. Koepke scored. A lot going right, and you feel good about that. But you can't ignore what's sandwiched in between there, which was a complete dud on Friday. And that's why it's so frustrating, right?
Quite literally a shit sandwich.
Pretty much, yes. And it's why it's so tough to draw any conclusions or how you feel about this team, because I feel like the vibes were back up after going into the holiday break with that Capitals win. And then it's just, doesn't matter how you bookend it with this win on Saturday. You still have a complete no-show performance. And I was talking about it with Ty as we were recapping the game on Friday. That felt like even the worst out of these multiple blowouts, because they've been blown out by Winnipeg and Carolina and Dallas. And a lot of those are multiple D-zone breakdowns or multiple saves that you want to have back. It's been a mix of both in some of those matchups. The Columbus game on Friday was just you getting your shit rocked. It was 15-4 high danger scoring chances at 5-on-5 play. It's not even counting the 3 power play goals Columbus had. So, again, this is probably just sweeping this game on Saturday under the rug. But, it's a good win against a team you should beat. And it's good that they did that. It's good they didn't snowball, right? It's good you didn't, take another step backwards. But, man, you'd be feeling so much better about this team and the way they've played if all of a sudden they were going into a tough matchup on New Year's Eve against the Capitals on the road, but with what would have been a 5-game win streak and some really dominant performances in there, right? Especially with the last time you played Washington. That's why it's so tough. Good on the result, good for them to bounce back, good for a lot of guys, both star players and depth players to step up. It's all well and good, but, I feel like we're not going to be able to have any sweeping conclusions. And, hell, maybe we won't even have that until the season's over. But until we get into the middle of January, where they've got a really tough schedule and you play Florida and Tampa and a couple of these really, really tough teams, over, multiple times pretty much over January, you're not going to have any takeaways as to what exactly this team is right now. They're just up and down, tough to really gauge what you're getting out of them every single night.
It's funny, you even look at the stretch coming up. You have Washington, you got the Rangers, who are in complete free fall, but that's still they should be so much better than they are. Yeah. That's the problem. You have Toronto, then you have the Islanders, who are whatever. Then you have Edmonton, then you have Tampa. And then you have Florida after that. You've got a lot
Tampa
more
again.
tough games. Tampa again, it just goes on in January. And I Like, that's the tough thing. And I said this when I did my solo Bruins beat on Saturday. I mentioned, in that 22-23 season, I don't think they ever lost like 3 or 4 games in a row. They never even lost 4 games in a stretch of 7 games during the regular season. So it was sort of like, I don't see this team losing in the playoffs that much. Like, they just have taken care of business all year. I expect it to continue. This year's the complete opposite. It's like, they can't really string much of anything together. Maybe this is the year that they actually do it in the playoffs. But there's no faith in that. And that's why, it's nice to beat Columbus 4-0 on Saturday, but you should beat Columbus 4-0. You should do what you did. You shouldn't have that game like you had on Friday. That Washington game, as you said, was great. A really good step in the right direction. We talked about, is this the best win of the season? And it just feels, and to Sacco's credit, they've done this less since Joe Sacco took over. But that whole 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. This is more 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And they sort of just trip over themselves at the worst times. And I just, the rest of the conference is doing the same thing.
Yeah.
They're not falling out of the playoff race or anything. They're still in it.
They have benefited from, what was it, on Saturday night, the Bruins win, take care of business. And Florida got shut out by Montreal, I think. Toronto lost, Ottawa lost, every team pretty much. And then, of course, as is tradition, Tampa is on their siesta once again. They just refuse to play games. They played approximately 15 games this year. But everyone else that is either ahead of them or right behind them have lost. Even when the Bruins have these stretches where they stumble, as of last time I checked, which I think was this morning, the standings, they're still 2 points behind both Toronto and Florida. They're right in the thick of it. Which is again tied. Crazy when you look at just how up and down this team has been, and it goes to, I think, what has been a talking point every single time I've been on this podcast with you, Evan, is how much different would this team be with 1 or 2 wins, 1 or 2 better performances from Jeremy Swayman, and 3 or 4 more goals from David Pastrnak. This team would be first in the East, or they'd be first in the Atlantic for sure. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't understand it. And I also think, you mentioned Pastrnak, you get good goaltending from Swayman. But I also think you do the other side of it where it's if Toronto and Florida just did what they were supposed to do, and you have teams Tampa and Ottawa, who are a little bit better, and, the rest of the conference picking up the slack, even the Metro, if the Bruins then fell into the wild card spot and they were out, both the wild cards now are Atlantic teams. So imagine if the Metro was just doing its job and the Bruins fall out of that 3rd spot in the Atlantic, and suddenly they're just out of the playoffs. So you have that too. It's such a weird year, and it's hard to gauge. And I think, we always talk I think this time of the year, we talk about the trade deadline and what's the plan there and what are they going to do? I mean, they're going to be a playoff team, likely. If this continues, they're going to be a playoff team. The roster certainly should be. But what do you do with the deadline? And that's why I think you're right. This stretch coming up is so important to kind of figure that out. But I think if the same thing happened, would it shock you if in this stretch they're hovering around 500 throughout that time? No, wouldn't at all. That's what they project to do. You can go through if they beat the Caps on New Year's, they'll find a way to lose to the Rangers, and then they'll beat Toronto and they'll beat the Islanders, and then they'll lose to Edmonton, and they might lose to Tampa. It's just going to it's like a ship just going back and forth. And so if they can find a way to roll through all those games and come out, 5-1-1 or something, then okay, it's a different story here. Maybe you trade your first for a guy with a ton of term, you go all in for a Dylan Larkin. I don't know how you're going to get him, but maybe that. Whereas if it's the complete opposite of that, I just, you're out of it. So I would expect them to go around 500 because that's what they've done all year. But I want to get into Fabian Lysell because this everyone's talking about this. This has everybody going.
Yes.
But first, our friends over at Prize Picks. It's the best place to get real money sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. Again, it's still the holidays. New Year's has not hit yet, so make your holidays bigger and brighter with Prize Picks, the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. They now take MasterCard, which makes things quick and easy when it comes to deposits. Join now because the holiday season, Prize Picks is giving away 2 free picks in December, and they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas. Picksmas still going on. The deals are awesome. I'd also say, just in terms of this sort of this time of year, right? The Patriots are out of it. Who cares what they do?
Really?
Isn't that incredible? If you want to make the NFL games more fun, you want to get more into it, more than just, I hope these teams win so the Patriots can keep their number 1 pick. Prize Picks makes the game really fun. Gets you into it. Same with the NHL. I always say if there's a NHL game and I want to watch it at night, doesn't have the Bruins in it, do some Prize Picks. What's wrong with that? Nothing's wrong with that. So make sure to download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Run your game. So Fabian Lysell comes up, basically gets an assist on that first goal. They took it away. Pretty much gets an assist. Plays a good part in it. Doesn't play much of any of the third period in a game the Bruins are comfortably ahead, and gets sent down on Sunday. Gets sent back down. Now, at the time of recording, we don't know if this is a paper transaction or not. Sounds crazy that they would bring him up just to put him right back down for one game. But this is what we have in front of us. Bruins bring him up, play him at the start, don't play him much in the end, and send him back down. We've talked a lot about his value not being there throughout the last couple years, overvaluing what he would be in a trade, what he could be at the NHL level. But you want to see what you got. And if they are sending him down and not bringing him back, I don't understand what they're doing with that at all.
Yeah, no, I agree, right? Like, it's something that, even as you said, he doesn't get the assist on that play, but he pretty much makes it happen. Like, Brazeau chips the puck up, and it's Lysell and his skating ability. He slips past 2 Columbus skaters, protects the puck down low. Like, again, a guy that is known for not really being, a physical player, a guy that, has gone through his fair share of bumps and bruises while dealing with contact, especially even at the AHL level. Held his own, moved the puck up, got it to Brazeau, starts a low to high play, leads to a Brazeau rebound goal. Like, again, doesn't score, but did the dirty work really to get something out of that line. And I think what the most puzzling thing with it, if it is the case where Lysell is sent down, and it's tough, right? We won't know until probably Monday at practice whether Lysell is still up with the team. You would think it's a paper transaction, but the Bruins also don't usually send us releases and they post a graphic of a guy getting sent down if it's not a paper transaction. Because there's plenty of times if you want to look at the waiver wires where guys, or the player, the NHL transaction page, there's plenty of times where guys go up and down and they don't announce it, and it's part of banking cap space, those kinds of things. It happens all the time. If you follow those bots that just tweet out the transaction pages and stuff like that, you'd be losing your mind when guys do go up and down. So if it is just that, that's all well and good, because if it is something where they send him down after one game, it's puzzling, right? Because one, you want to give this guy an extended run, even if he doesn't, it wasn't a perfect night. He didn't have any shots on goal, played 11 minutes. Again, as you said, didn't play a whole lot of the third period, but I'd like to see that guy continue to see what he can do up here. He was noticeable, which I think my issue is all right, if he was let's say filling in for a guy in the top 6, Geeky got banged up or something, and they bring up Lysell for a game. Okay, whatever. You're not probably going to put him in a top 6 spot for the long haul. At least that's not what the Bruins do, right? Out of the gate.
Yeah,
but
no,
if he's replacing Oliver Wahlstrom, and that Brazeau Frederick Wahlstrom line has given you absolutely nothing for these last couple of games,
zero,
nothing, absolutely nothing. Does not hurt at all to bring in a guy like Lysell and see what he can do there. So, confusing if it is the case where he is sent back down to Providence, because I just look at, it's not just Lysell and the promise that he has and the fact that he did show you something and did contribute to, setting you off to an early lead in that game. And I think there's the appeal of his speed and his skill, which the Bruins up front do not have a whole lot of when you look at the rest of their roster. But beyond that, it's the personnel you have in place beyond Lysell. So we're just going to go back to the Brazeau Frederick Wahlstrom line. I'm all for giving Lysell at the very least like a 5-game stretch here to see what he can do, right? Like, and it goes back to what we've said, like especially with this team not giving their younger players a long leash. Like you had Merkulov up here for a couple of games, didn't make much of an impact, sure, but look at last year when Merkulov got called up and was playing like fourth line minutes, 8 minutes a night. Like, and again, like the Bruins say, like, yes, we need guys to be, better in their own end, make smart plays with the puck on their stick. True. Like, but also there's, I think, the purpose of letting guys, take their lumps or try and fail up at this level if they're guys you want to build around. Like Mason Lohrei has not had a perfect year at all. He makes his mistakes. Look at that. Look at that game in Columbus. There was quite a few plays where you're like, ooh, what is going on with those gaps or those reads or stuff like that? But the Bruins stick with him because you see his potential and he rebounds and has a really strong night. Was a +4, had the assist on Brazeau's goal and bounce back. If you're a young player, you're going to go through those peaks and valleys. So I don't see why that same line of thinking can't translate to a guy like Lysell, who you still don't know what you really have in him. Is he a guy that could be a 20-goal scorer? Is he Studnicka or these guys that can't stick at the NHL level? We won't know until you find out. And, I don't think you're going to get any sort of answer if you don't give him at least a couple of games, see what he can do. Like, I'm all for it. You bring him down to the Capitals. That's a tough team that's really aggressive on the forecheck, really active sticks. If he's not on top of his game, Lysell, and he does play, he's going to get smoked. Like, he's going to get his pocket picked, and it could lead to a bad chance. I'd rather see that than not give him the opportunity to see what he can do, because he could be a guy that could be a liability with a puck on his stick against a team like Washington, or he could go end to end and give you a goal that you desperately need against a team like Washington. Like, let's find out. Let's see what he can do.
Yeah, I just, whether or not it's a paper transaction, you also just look at his usage in Saturday's game, not playing much in the third period. Bruins are up 3-0 on the Blue Jackets. I know they lost the night before 6-2, but like Columbus is also on the second night of a back-to-back. They're in the away building. They're down 3 goals. Showcase the kid. Let's see what he's got in a third period like that. Like we always, my dad and I used to joke when I was like a sophomore on the varsity team, we'd only play if we were getting blown out or if the other team was getting blown out. It was just garbage time minutes. And Lysell obviously is more than garbage time minutes, but like that's a great spot to play the kid in. Throw him out there. See what you got in him. And I don't know what the reasoning was behind him not playing a lot in the third period, if there's something more than just matchups or things like that. But I was also puzzled by that. I didn't understand why that kid wasn't out there, for a good or more time, at least in the third period. And you mentioned that line with Brazeau and Frederick, and Brazeau had a goal, obviously in Friday's game, had a goal, in Saturday's game, and then had a goal on Monday against the Caps. Other than that, his production has dried up over the last month or so. He was someone that actually produced a lot when they were terrible, but has since sort of found his level and has sort of come back to earth. Trent Frederick, though, so this came to my attention because someone tweeted out like Trent Frederick is just in like doing public skate, which, that's mean. Come on. But like, I don't know if they're fully wrong. Since that 2-goal game against Philly on December 7th, 0 points. Nothing. Just nothing. A couple shots. Like, just not giving you much. And I do, for a kid like Lysell who comes up, is that, I know we talk about the Bruins are not going to put him on the first or second line right off the jump, but like putting him with them, is that optimizing Lysell enough? I mean, what did on the first shift that worked, but I don't know. That's another thing where like clearly that third line right wing spot or third line wing in general, because you can put someone on the left side and Brazeau on the right side, is a place to bring someone up and put them in. But is that the spot for Lysell either?
I mean, it's the same argument you have with like when Patra never really gets called up, right? And why I've been like, man, it'd be so interesting to see what he could do like between Zacha and Pastrnak, but I just know they're not going to do it because like it's a whole thing. Like Patra's playing at such a high level down in Providence. He's got almost a point per game the last 3 weeks now, pretty much. And he's feeling good, confident about his game. Then you go up here and you've got guys that aren't really finishing plays between Frederick and, take your pick, Wallstrom, what have you. It's like, I think that is the big challenge for any one of these younger players. But by the same token, you can be like, all right, well, That's why you need guys like Lysell and Potter up here, because maybe the onus is put on them to make things happen. Like maybe those are the guys that, with their skill and their ability to skate and make plays, maybe they do draw more out of guys like Frederick or Brazo or Wallstrom, what have you, right? Like Wallstrom's got a good shot. You haven't really seen it that much, but like if a guy like Potter is setting him up, maybe that opens things up for him. So it is kind of like the chicken and the egg, right? In terms of how best to fix that third line and what they're trying to get out of that group. I mean, you need that third line to start clicking in some capacity. I think you've seen progress out of the top six recently with Geeky, Zaka, Pasternak, and Marchand, Lindholm, Coyle. Like those lines have, I think, improved. I don't think it's your ideal top six grouping that you were expecting going into the year, but they're at least giving you something night in and night out. I think that's productive. That third line, you need to find some sort of cohesion to get going here. And tell you what, like if the chips fall where they are, and by some, you get to the second half of the year and Potter and Lysell are who, click down in Providence, like during their time together down there. If they're 2/3 of your third line going into the second half of the year and they're finding their footing, two young, talented guys that if they work, couldn't give you some skill in scoring further down the lineup. That'd be pretty intriguing, I think, if you're the Bruins, but got to give them a chance.
Got to give them a chance. And if you want to go see that, you got to go to our friends over at Game Time, because they're focused on togetherness this holiday season. That means when you bring people together at live events, the experience is that much better, and perfect gift. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for live events even easier, and it filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. I love the Game Time Picks. It makes the curation just easier. The flash deals, so you're getting a good deal. You know what you're getting because it's all in pricing. No surprise fees or anything like that. It's just all in. That's what you're paying. You know from the start, and you get to see the seat views, so you know where you're sitting. It's a good experience from start to finish, and lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. There's also Game Time ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Connor, what time is it?
Game time.
It's a game time. When I did this by myself on Saturday, I had to do that all by myself. I was like in my own room, just, saying like game time, like into my mic. I felt like I'm talking to myself and I'm doing ads.
Listen, Game Time is so good with all their great deals that like by the time you're done with the ad read, you fire it up anyway, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know what? It's funny. Game Time has ads that get you fired up. You know where else has ads that get you completely fired up, and they're not a rival of either Game Time or Prize Picks, so we can mention them. I always hear them advertise on the radio. You ever heard a Top Dog Law commercial?
I can't say I have, Evan. No.
Oh man, they like fire you up. Like they make me want to get in a car accident, so I call them. They're injury lawyers.
Evan's just gonna boot up GTA 5, just drive his like Crown Vic off the
I bought
Hollywood
GTA
Hills.
5 yesterday. Actually, I want to do the story mode before 6 comes out, because I never did the story mode when I was younger because I'm an idiot. The story is like elite, isn't it?
Yes, of course. I'm more of a
doing
San
Breaking Bad
Andreas
years later.
Yeah, I know. I'm more of a GTA 4 San Andreas kind of guy, but I will be, along with everyone else, getting GTA 6 when it does drop. Gotta get a new console first, but
well, it's gonna be like 100,000 gigabytes. I mean, that thing is gonna be
it's a lot,
huge. So yeah, you're right. I'm gonna have to get like outside storage or something, or a brand new Xbox.
We're gonna be so addicted to it that we're gonna be doing like the live streams of like GTA. We're gonna like talk Bruins, but it's gonna be us like doing a GTA live stream at the same time. It's gonna be us talking about calling up Fabian Lysell as like as for like crashing. We're doing like a demolition derby.
That's right. As we're robbing a bank.
Yes.
There is like something to be said for that though. I remember there was a thing on I think it was TikTok where they would read like Reddit stories, like whether they were scary or whatever. And in the background would just be someone racing in GTA. Like that is a thing. Like we could just have gameplay going on in the background. That's so like our age group.
Yes.
Can't just watch two people talk. They've also got to watch like a video game as they listen to someone else talk.
Yes, of course.
Unrelated.
I think that'd be sensory overload for me too. I think I'd be so swept up in like trying to like pick a lock in GTA that you asked me like, is this the time they call up Lysell? And I have no idea what you're talking about. And I'd be so enraptured in the game. So
we can do them separate. We can do it at separate
It's
times.
true.
We'll do, we'll do this and then we'll go play some GTA and get some good footage when GTA 6 comes out. There are people that would love that, and there are people that would absolutely hate it. Morgan Geekie. See, imagine it's like Morgan Geekie, and like we're stealing a helicopter from the airport.
Yes.
Morgan Geekie though has been hot. Been red hot for a while. And I talked about this on Saturday. I have him as sort of my most overlooked and underappreciated player so far this year. We've talked a lot about him not being a real top 6 guy, but he is producing like one. And even like in that game against Columbus on Friday when they lost, that Zacha goal, he doesn't get an assist on, but that's a great forecheck. He forces the turnover. And we've seen that where he's good on the cycle. And is he the most skilled guy? Is he going to set them up every time? No, but he does finish chances. And I think he has 10 points in December now after Saturday's game. So I just, he's someone that since the coaching change, I think you can lump him in with Zadorov, with Elias Lindholm, has been much better. And you've needed that, whether it's, I don't see them trading him at this point because he is giving you legitimate value. But I do wonder, like, he is getting his stock back up, whether that's for a trade or a contract. And you're on the good end of it because he's helping you win games.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 7 goals, 12 points in his last 15 games now. And I think for him, it comes down to just, and it's something I think hurt this team early on this year. It's like getting your confidence and finding an identity. And I think on that top line that he's with, and yes, like you can look at his skill set or his resume and be like, that's not a top line guy, but he knows what he needs to do to be successful on that line of being the guy that plays like around the goal line. Is kind of an underrated physical player. I think he was like second on the team in hits last year and like does a lot of dirty work for 2 skilled players in Zacha and Pastrnak. As you said, he doesn't get the assist, but sets up Zacha's goal in Columbus, lays a big hit, gets the puck back. And I think in terms of the confidence, like he does have a pretty underrated shot. I think you saw that like with his goal against Columbus, right? Where just a little bit of time and space, and instead of hesitating or looking for the extra pass or doing what a lot of his teammates have done this year, sees an opportunity, rips a puck past Tarasov and gets the goal. And so I think that's a guy that if he's not confident or he doesn't feel like, where his feet are in terms of where he is in the lineup, maybe he doesn't take that shot. But I think now that he's settled into that role, feeling good about his game, you're seeing the results play out. And I think that's something that you're hoping that other guys kind of, follow along with in terms of just, I think, the confidence and knowing what he has to do night in, night out on that line can pay dividends. And I think that's also probably why a guy like him has benefited because under Joe Sacco, the Bruins have not had the same amount of lineup reshuffling that you saw under Montgomery. So like Geeky kind of knows where he is night in and night out. It's not like Geeky who's scratched and then on the third line and then maybe gets, a period up with Pastrnak, but then he's bumped down again. Like now all of a sudden you're getting that cohesion, feeling more confident about your game, what you need to do. And I think that has also paid dividends of just that consistency, settling in, knowing what you have to do with that grouping. And I think it has paid off for a guy like him that, as you said, is one of those guys you can put with Lindholm, Zadorov, a couple others that I think have really kind of found their game and just been more consistent and confident, I think is the biggest things that is why he's been a solid player of these last month plus.
Yeah. Montgomery was not good with moving those guys around a ton and just they could never create chemistry. And you're right. I mean, that's been the big thing. He's been, sort of just stapled to Zacha and Pastrnak. And it's funny when they were really struggling for 5-on-5 scoring, we talked about, hey, just put Marchand with Zacha and Pastrnak and put together, the closest thing you have to a super line, or do Lindholm with Marchand and Pastrnak and do it that way. But this has sort of worked. I mean, they like, we ragged on them at the beginning with like sort of, hey, we don't really know what this team is. They're inconsistent. They're starting to score more. And since Sacco took over, they have won the majority of their games. Obviously, there was the bad ones against Columbus, Winnipeg, and what was the other one? Winnipeg.
Columbus, Winnipeg, Dallas, Carolina.
Dallas.
Yeah.
Yes. Wait, no. I'm saying since Sacco took over. Dallas and Carolina.
No.
It was Winnipeg, and what was the game right after Winnipeg or before it?
Seattle.
Seattle. Okay, Winnipeg, Seattle, and Columbus. But they've won the majority.
I was hijacking cars in GTA.
you were Franklin for a second there.
Yes.
But I do. I think that they've been mostly positive. They've been mostly positive. There have been negatives. There's stuff where you watch and you're like, how the hell does that happen? Because their game is predicated on defense. They're a defensive team. It's compete. It's will. It's those little things. I know that sounds really cliche, but they're not a team that's like, oh, great, they ran into a hot goalie. That happens sometimes, but it's not like, oh, their skill didn't win out tonight. They're not an overly skilled team. They're not going to snipe a bunch of goals. They're going to beat you 3-1, 4-2. We've talked about this. They win ugly games, and that's what's infuriating is like, where is that effort every night? Some nights it's not going to be there, but I don't think they're really in a position to not have it be there. So interesting going forward. Connor, what can the people look forward to from you over at the Globe at Boston.com?
Yeah, we'll have you covered every step of the way over at Boston.com and the Boston Globe. We'll have recaps, features, columns, breakdowns, all that good stuff over at Boston.com and the Boston Globe. So please read me over there. And if you want to follow me on Twitter, X, whatever it's called, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. That's Conor Ryan. I'm F. Marinofsky, Bruins Beat listeners. Have a great rest of your week.